Hey guys, so today I want to talk about some quote unquote unhinged books. So I get a lot of like my TBR off of TikTok, and like the books are interesting and like I picked them up for a reason. They're popular for a reason, but a lot of the books are like called unhinged or like female manipulator books. So these are some of those books that I want to talk about that I've read that I'm like, yeah, this matches up like the description, but they're actually good books. And I don't know if it's because I'm like the audience they were written for. I feel like they're directed at like a young woman, or like a younger person. And I don't know. I enjoyed them. So the first one I'm going to talk about is kind of like the gold standard of unhinged books for unhinged women books is My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otessa Mosfeg. So like my first note is the unhinged girly book. So at first with like the unhinged like theme going on in books and literature, well, there's a tractor, with books and literature, I didn't really get it at first, and it wasn't until I read My Year of Rest and Relaxation that I was like, okay, I'm starting to get it, because this book was so hyped. Like I was seeing things about it everywhere and I didn't really understand. And it wasn't until I read it, I listened to it as an audiobook, which I have to say that probably also like helped me like get into the tone of the story, because it was, I think it was written in first person, so it's just like a direct dialogue into your brain. But it kind of shows like how much. So My Year of Rest and Relaxation follows this woman who wants to sleep for a year because she's just kind of exhausted from grief, from her relationships failing, from her just being kind of a miserable, mentally unwell person. And Mosfeg shows how much rest can be viewed as a performance. So this character interacts with like the art world. She's educated in art, and she's kind of got to the point at one point in the novel where her rest is used as performance art. And I thought that was very interesting as like a theme. And it kind of also brought up this idea, because I see a lot of people talk about this book on TikTok, how unlikable the characters are. And yes, I can say the character is unlikable, but does an unlikable character make it realistic? And in a way I'll never like understand, because she's an unnamed narrator, I'm pretty sure like I'll never understand who she is. I am not rich and thin in New York City with like my paid off apartment and being able to sleep for a year. But like after I read that book, I think I understood where she was coming from, where we're kind of in this society with so much information and so many things happening so quickly and fast around us, that being able to like for her to not work for a year and decide to just rest is something that is radical, because we're in such like, our lifestyle as individuals is very trend based, because it was even like last year the trends were hyper focused, like being super productive, like especially when the pandemic started, people wanted to like do all of these things. You felt like you had to do so much stuff, and then that kind of has mellowed out, and it's kind of changed into like slow living or not being so productive. And I don't know, it's odd seeing lifestyles be trends and beauty standards be trends that are changing so quickly. Like 3 or 4 months, the lifestyle like trend flips over. And maybe that has to do with the seasons, or maybe just like the time of year. But I feel like it's a lot to do with TikTok and social media, and how a trend can just like influence things that quickly. But yeah, that's kind of like what this book made me think about. And I love it when books actually make you think and kind of question the reality that you're living and who you are as an individual. So I was happy with this book and how it made me think. And then one I read recently was New Animals by Ella Baxter. So the themes of this book were grief, sex, and family drama. And so New Animals follows this woman, I think it's New Zealand, she goes to Tanzania, or maybe it's South Africa. She goes to Tanzania at one point. But basically, it's this woman. She works at a funeral home as the makeup artist for the deceased, and it's about her grief and her lack of connection to her own self and body, because she's kind of become numb to it with how she works on so many deceased people, that she kind of wants to find her body again, and she seeks that through sex and violence and kind of pushing herself into places that aren't good for her. And there are trigger warnings for this book for sexual assault, and it's just kind of like this woman processing her grief in a way that you don't really see as healing, because she's kind of pushing everyone away and then seeking things that are harmful towards her. But then as the book progresses and we see this harm, we're kind of having to like look at ourselves and be like, okay, what do we do as individuals that hurts ourselves, that we say is not self-harm? And I'm not talking about like hurting yourself physically, but like other, not like the traditional ideas of self-harm, but like maybe you don't sleep enough, or you drink too much caffeine, or you overindulge on alcohol or drugs, and the kind of self-harm that is more normalized, like her seeking out sex when it hurts her, and she seeks it again just to feel that little bit of relief from being hurt. And yeah, so kind of, again, a book that makes you think. Yeah, I wrote here, this book kind of focuses on how much the body reacts to the emotions of the mind. So this character is putting her body through all of this just so her mind could be at peace, which I thought was interesting. And then another one is A Touch of Jen by Beth Morgan. So A Touch of Jen focuses on a couple obsessed with their Instagram crush. Remy, the boyfriend, he's an awful person. I hate him. And he's like truly a negative creature. I literally wrote creature about him. I did not like him, and I did not like the characters in this book. Whereas with like Oshfeg's My Year of Rest and Relaxation, the characters are like not good. These ones are despicable. And it's not even in a malicious way. They're just negative and harmful and toxic, and it's surprising how real that is, because I know people like these characters. I think everybody knows people like these characters. And when they were like talking about like some of their thoughts, like the one character, Remy, he was like, are people just like happy like this? Who are they performing for? That's what he asks at the beginning of the book when Jen is seen like being happy and interacting with people, and he turns to like one of her friends and it's like, who's she performing for? We all know who she is. Why is she acting like this? But kind of the idea that you're like performing for your friends in a way, I thought was really interesting, and kind of how, because Remy was so used to associating Jen with her social media profile, that the idea of seeing her act how she does on social media in real life was something that he couldn't comprehend, because for him, Instagram is kind of a place where you're lying, and the real life is when you could actually act real. So seeing those two ideas was something that confused him. So this is a book about like obsession that turns into a surrealistic horror film, basically. And I have to say, I did like this book. I was kind of like forcing myself to like push through it towards the end, because like I said, Remy was a very dislikable character, but just the prose of it tells the story very well. Thank you guys so much for watching. Those are just some unhinged books that I've been thinking about recently, and probably will continue to think about. If you have any recommendations, drop them down below, and I hope you have a nice week. Bye!